the Bring Women Back to Work podcast aim to inspire, empower, and elevate women returning to the workforce by sharing authentic stories, experts' insights, and practical strategies to navigate career transition, building confidence, and thrive in a modern work environment. It's a platform to spotlight the real journeys of women who have re-entered the workplace or wants to re-enter the workplace, the leaders and allies who champion them, and the companies creating more inclusive future. Welcome to the podcast From Marketing Rules to Leadership Goals. With me today, Guntram Friede, VP Marketing EMEA Celonis, and your host today, Vanessa Gentile, Head of Marketing Salesforce and founder of Bring Back to Work NGO. Hi, Guntram, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. It's an absolute pleasure being with you today.
So let's start. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Good. Some people inherit family heirlooms. I inherited Guntram Friede's job. That's how this story begins. When Guntram, then head of marketing at Salesforce Switzerland, embarked on a new professional adventure, it took a full 9 months. Oh yes, a symbolic full term, to find this successor. And who did they choose? Me.
Well, of course.
Of course. Who else?
Of course.
Of course. Who else? So fast forward a few years, and here we are, 2 marketeers, 2 career journeys, and 1 shared belief in the power of bold ideas. In this interview, we turn the tables and interview each other about marketing wins and wounds, the future of brand storytelling, why budget debates are eternal, and what it's like to switch roles across companies like Salesforce and Celonis. Spoiler alert, yes, there is a AI alignment and a healthy dose of good nature teasing.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Ready?
Glad we did work together for a while.
Really? I can't remember, Guntram. So how did it feel, Guntram, seeing someone take over your desk? Actually, me. I meant talking specifically about me.
Yeah. Well, very, very humble.
That's already very nice.
So I think at the time when I decided to embark on a new adventure after almost 10 years at Salesforce, there was a few things that were really important to me, and that was from a leadership perspective and the team that was in place, but also from a cultural perspective. And I thought that somebody from within Salesforce at the time would be a great fit to follow suit and to step into that role, to continue what had been built with the team. And on that note, obviously, big kudos to the team back in the days and everything that has been built on top of that with you. But I was actually very comfortable in somebody stepping in from a cultural Salesforce perspective who had come up in the organization and who'd been exposed to how we were doing things, but then also to bring a different twist to the marketing angle. So I felt that was a great combination, because often when you bring in leaders from externally, yes, they also bring in some innovation and some new and novel ideas. However, I felt that we had a very specific culture within Salesforce at the time that I wanted to continue thriving. So I was actually quite comfortable in stepping into the role.
Actually, you were very surprised.
Surprised at first, and then it kind of felt more acquainted. Let me ask you a question, Vanessa. So,
Sure.
how did you feel stepping into a role? And I think, while expectations through our leadership, our go-to-market leadership and sales leadership were usually always very high as we were growing so quickly, on average, much quicker than any other international country in Switzerland. How did you feel about that?
So honestly, I was really scared. My last working role had been a few years back, and stepping into a position that had been empty for 9 months came with a lot of pressure. And unspoken expectation, backlogs and a team waiting for direction. For me, it was really not easy. But fear doesn't mean you are not ready, right? It just means you care about. So I gave myself permission to not have all the answers. And at day one, instead, I focused on listening, reconnecting with my instinct, and rebuild confidence through action. And I remind myself I wasn't hired to replicate the past. I was hired to learn and lead forward with my voice, my experience, and my perspective. And that mindset helped me really turn pressure into purpose.
Right. So literally just being very daring and just taking it from day one.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Just start.
Absolutely. Good.
And let's talk about biggest wins, toughest challenges, Guntram. Talking openly about the most unexpected win in your role.
That must be a brand and pipeline activation. I don't mean to talk about performance too much as a revenue marketer, but I think one of the biggest wins was when we managed to sponsor the immaterial UNESCO heritage street parade. That was an absolute fantastic.
Oh my God.
If you remember that.
I remember that.
Right, bringing everybody together. There's 1 million people on the streets of Zurich. This phenomenal techno parade, if you like, but it was more about that, right? We based it on the concept of equality, which at the time and still to the present day is obviously something very important to Salesforce. So bringing all these people together under the banner of equality, having our own truck, DJs from the US and locally from Zurich, people on the truck in a VIP area with view of the lake, and just celebrating the music, the compassionate being together. And I thought, I was even allowed to give an interview with SFR. And
I remember.
And, on the night of being scared and just standing in front of all these people and speaking. But that was truly an absolute highlight. And I think when you talk about a turnout rate of, an attendance rate of an event, I think we had a 110% turnout rate of everybody who attended, because everybody was looking forward to it. All of the execs that we invited to our VIP area, and experience an event like that from an elevated position, but also being on the track and celebrating, was just fantastic.
That was really amazing. I can remember. And actually, I remember many people that today still talk about this event.
Yeah,
and
I'm glad.
Yeah.
And this is what us marketers should do, right? We should leave a lasting impression, not just in terms of us personally, but also how we allow the company to thrive and create memorable moments. I think that's really important.
And talking about this, we will touch upon this later, but this is what AI never will replace. This feeling, empathy.
Yeah, the emotions. Absolutely.
And I'm very happy for that.
Yeah.
So next question, a campaign that flopped. And I give you a word, balloon.
Oh yeah, well that one actually a proper balloon that burst, if you like. So we another nice project that we initiated. So the AI. Speaking of AI, actually, that's a nice segue. Salesforce used Einstein as the mascot, if you like, the symbol for its AI feature and technology. And for the 100th birthday, so for the people who don't know, but Albert Einstein had a very strong link with Switzerland. He worked at the patent office in Bern, and he was in Zurich. And so what we thought for the 100th birthday, 100th anniversary of Einstein, we wanted to create an Einstein lookalike massive balloon in which people could actually travel through Switzerland, but also across the city of Zurich. And so we created that, and then it would actually launch at the Festival International de Ballon in Deux. And it was it flopped, unfortunately. Cut a long story short, it flopped. We produced the balloon; it was ready.
I know.
Yes, one of the heritage that you that you had to live with.
Amazing heritage.
But it never flew. So it got produced. We have imagery of the thing being actually inflated, but unfortunately, we never brought it into the air over Zurich. And there's numerous reasons for that. We were very good at preparing everything. We negotiated the trademark using the word Einstein, and also the Einstein balloon with the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, where the trademark is respectively owned. So all of that was documented, prepared, aligned with our headquarter in San Francisco. But there's a number of reasons why that never went through.
I know the reasons.
Perfect. Let's not. But definitely one that flopped. So even though the idea still lives on,
the idea was really good, actually.
Who knows?
Yes.
Maybe we'll recreate it. Yeah.
And I don't know, to get out of this balloon, I signed up more papers than I signed up for my divorce.
Okay.
So I was...
You're welcome.
And the feeling was the same. Oh my God, so nice. Now this balloon is gone and we can move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
All right. So what keeps you up at night as a head of marketing in EMEA? Now you have obviously a much bigger scope in your job.
I must admit, and this is the honest truth, I don't think I've lost too many nights sleep over work, which I think is a blessing, because I know plenty of people, team members, friends, etc., who stress quite a bit about work. And I'm not saying don't, because that's obviously up to you, but I don't particularly lose a lot of sleep over work. However, there's a few things that really do affect me and that I do think about, and where I allocate sufficient time to address it. And that's one is my team. So I have a rather respectable and large team of professionals where I want to make sure that they have purpose, they have a great career, they feel empowered, they feel seen, and they do the right kind of work in the place where they're at Celonis at the moment. And then the second one that I do feel I spend a lot of time thinking about is just not necessarily managing the expectations of our go-to-market leaders, but really trying to understand what drives their objectives and how they take decisions, and a strong alignment. And I've been discussing this on a number of occasions and in different podcasts as well, that go-to-market alignment nowadays is something I do think about a lot, because it's a combination of being productive and efficient and yielding performance, but at the same time seeing the human being in front of you and understanding that they are driven by certain goals. So it's those two, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think it's shifting, right, from, I don't know, campaign managers to really business impact.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. So Vanessa, let me quickly turn this around as we're talking about some of the more emotional sides. And you mentioned it in your intro. You talked about artificial intelligence, the kind of importance of data. And I just want to understand what your gut feeling is when it comes to the future of marketing, especially when it concerns these hyped or very important topics. Excuse me, it's not hyped. It's a very important topic, AI and data. So tell me, how is AI changing the marketing game, if you like, and what's still human led from your point of view, kind of combining the two topics?
So AI is transforming marketing from reactive to predictive. It's helping us understanding customers in real time, personalize at scale, and automate was used to take entire teams. Before, from content generation to journey orchestration, AI is elevating performance like never before, in my opinion. But what remains human-led and must stay that is what I said already before, like empathy, storytelling, emotions, and brand purpose. AI can suggest what to say and when, but only humans know why it matters. The brands that will win are, in my opinion, are the ones that use AI as a co-pilot and not as the autopilot, for example.
I like the human aspect in it, and I think it'll never change. I'm with you. Okay. So on that note, and that's something as a marketer. So I'm a revenue marketer, not a brand marketer, and when I think about brand, I think about creativity a lot. So tell me, creativity versus performance, is this something that can be combined? Can we actually have both?
Absolutely. Not only can we must. AI frees up time by automating repetitive tasks and surfacing performance insights. That space should be reinvested in creativity. When data and creativity are siloed, we get generic content. But when they work together, we get campaigns that resonate and convert, in my opinion. So the real magic here happens when creativity or creative intuition is powered by intelligent performance feedback. That's where true brand growth lives.
Okay, excellent. And when you look at yourself as a regional marketing leader, CMO of your specific region, how are you becoming almost like a mini CEO? We talk about the responsibility, the kind of alignment with your go-to-market leaders. I mean, there's so many different tasks that you have at the moment, and responsibilities. Do you feel like you're becoming a mini CEO?
Yeah, so because the role of the CMO is no longer just about brand awareness, it's more about business impact. Today's CMOs are driving revenue, shaping products, experiences, owning customer insights, and influencing culture inside and out. So we are the connective tissue, let's say, between brand, data, tech, and purpose. So to do this well, I think CMOs need to think like a CEO, balancing long-term vision with short-term results, leading cross-functional teams, and aligning marketing with overall business growth. In a world where every touchpoint is an opportunity to build trust, marketing is no longer a function; it's driver of transformation.
Okay, that makes sense. I think that's a good explanation.
But now back to you.
Of course.
Talking about advice to your younger marketing self. I like this personal things.
Gosh, I'm still young.
Yeah, very young, very young. So one thing you wish you knew earlier.
One thing I wish I knew earlier.
Think about there are some young CMOs listen to us.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to be drastic here. I think it's super critical to learn to say no.
Mm-hmm.
And that's ultimately something I didn't really understand, appreciate, or was neither taught at the beginning of my career. So it's kind of setting boundaries. And I don't want to be too generic, but I think it applies in a professional and also personal context, and setting boundaries and saying no to certain things from a professional angle. It allows you to focus. It allows you to have a thorough conversation around what is actually important. I think it was Mark Benioff who once said, if everything is important, I can't quite remember exactly how he said it, but he said, if everything becomes important, nothing truly is. And that applies to the present day. So what I would have wished a lot early on, and I had to learn it over 20 years of working in the marketing space and CRM space now, that saying no and setting boundaries and actually letting people get to know your authentic self and what is okay and what isn't is super important, professionally and personally. So I wish that was something that I had learned earlier.
The courage,
I'm still learning, actually.
I think the courage also to say no, to prioritize, to focus. I think that unfortunately this is also due to the experience that we go through, right?
Sure.
It's a mindset change. Yeah. It's nothing worse to say, hey, that's not possible, or let's postpone. There are many ways to say no.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be say, oh, no, and that's it, right?
Exactly.
So there are many ways, but I think that we now, as experienced leader, we have the power to teach and coach our teams in that sense, and make sure that they are not doing the same mistakes we did. So that's actually good.
Yeah, similar. Maybe if you allow me to add, similar to talking about a problem. If somebody comes to you with a problem, okay, I'm not necessarily here to always solve your problem. What would be your solution? And I'm, as a leader, as a marketing leader, I'm responsible. It's my purpose. It's my drive to help you find a solution, to be by your side, to clear the road of those rocky, obstacles to actually get to a solution. So I think, you're absolutely right. Don't just say no, but rather think about, if you clarify your boundaries, if you clarify why something isn't working for you, you're actually very much in a position to have a dialogue, a very constructive dialogue about what is important and what isn't. So, and I would expect that from my team as well. I don't know everything. I employ people. I bring people into the organization. I work with very smart people who actually say no to me on a regular basis in one way or another. And I appreciate that. And
probably female more than
male. I would actually say, you saying that, that my team consists mostly of women, which is fantastic. I have the best female to male ratio in the industry, probably. But no, all jokes aside, I think you get a lot of very, very good feedback in my team and constructive conversations. Yeah.
Then they have a very good teacher on their side and coach.
That's very kind of you. We'll see.
Yeah, sometimes I'm kind of. One thing you would never do again? Is there something?
Yeah. And that's something that came with age and experience as well. And that's asking for help or clarification. Again, keeping it a bit more general, I think asking for help is a must. If you're stuck, if you don't know which way to go, if you are unclear about targets, about priorities, about, a certain data set that has been provided to you, et cetera, et cetera. We had it recently setting the targets for our regional objectives in terms of, performance, but also more of the soft targets that we set as part of our MBO's management by objectives, and just clarifying, asking questions. I think that's something that's super important. And because anything that is, assumptions are if you base things on assumptions, then, or your decisions on assumptions, then the likelihood for failure is always there. So I think assumptions are bad. Try to be more precise. So don't hesitate to ask for help or clarifications.
Yeah, that's actually a good one. I think people tend to not ask for permission or not ask for help. Is it more driven by their own ego? What do you think?
I don't know. I think it's
Is
a
it
combination.
An ego problem?
Could be ego. Could be fear of being rejected. I think a lot of people don't dare to ask because they might also be considered incompetent. Whereas if we're honest with ourselves, the amount of times you ask and you get help is actually, it's surprising. There's so many people out there to help. So I think it's ego. It's fear of rejection. It's looking incompetent. And to anybody out there, just ask for help. And also, if you're in an environment and you ask for help and you don't get that help, you should ask yourself if you're in the right spot. If a leader doesn't help you when you ask them to, proactively, and a good leader should actually also sense it. A good leader should be able to not feel or sense, but understand the environment that he or she is operating in. So, but again, I always say to my team, what I don't know, I cannot change. So please be open and honest with me, be polite and professional, but let me know. And this way I can help you, I can help the team, I can help the organization. We're all here in this together. So I think that clarity is required.
Yeah, thank you for this.
Sure.
One tool or mindset use whereby today?
Tool or mindset. So my mindset is, it evolves around coaching. I love to coach. And I've also, for the longest part of my professional career where it really started mattering in terms of leadership, I've also had a life coach, and she's been with me through thick and thin, and she's listened and advised and recommended. And my life coach, Annette, she's an absolute star. And I'm delighted that she's also now started working with some of my team, which is great because she knows me. She starts to get to know my team.
Yeah, absolutely.
She creates synergies around that, and it's incredible how I can thrive and how I can foster the development of my team by having somebody external look at you and give you advice. And I think on the note of ego, so often we don't actually see what we do, how we speak, how we appear in a room or a meeting. So having somebody to actually check you from time to time and put a mirror put a mirror in front of you. I think we all need that.
Yeah, give you a new perspective and coach on specific skills that they see in you, a huge potential where you don't even see. So I think coaching is something very important nowadays. Being a coach or coaching people or get coached, this is super important, and I think that's the way forward, right?
Let me ask you, do you also ask your team to embark on coaching opportunities, training opportunities? I know Salesforce offers a lot of opportunities on that front, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it's crucial to have mentors. Everybody has their own mentor, because mentor is another function, let's say, and coach. And as a certified coach myself, I coach them personally.
Oh, you're a certified coach.
Yes.
Look, there is still a few things I don't know about you, Vanessa. Gosh, you kept that one quiet.
We should think regularly.
Sing more often, not just in these podcasts. I might learn a thing or two.
So I'm a certified coach, and by the way, I am going to certify myself on a mental coach.
Okay.
And this is the next step, because these topics really, really are very important to me. for myself as well, but also for my team, right? I think that we are getting more complexity with AI, with a lot of topics. The world is undergoing always a change, and I think being able to coach the people in their right area or towards their right steps to thrive, it's super important. And mental health, by the way, is also a topic that it's very near to my heart. I think that this is one of the tools that can help you have the right mindset always.
Do you know what I read recently? You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly.
And the amount of leaders, but also team members with ICs, individual contributors, leaders who have, I don't want to use the word burnout, but who have just exhausted themselves in giving. It's time to recharge that battery and don't wait until it's yellow or red. Just make sure you take that time. So I love that to recharge, take the time to recharge. And I love that you're embarking on that journey also. And once you have that clarity for yourself and you've educated yourself, it's so much easier to then also transfer it to your team, right?
Absolutely. And the most difficult part in coaching is coaching my own children. This is so difficult. This is really very difficult. So everything that they said in the books or in trainings and I try at home, it fail. So I have a lot to learn.
It's probably not about failing. It's probably about testing out different ways, because everybody's different, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
One thing that you might try with one team member or your children, it might work on one, but not on the other.
Yeah, exactly. And so they are so different, and you think, okay, I will try this. Now I will try this. Nothing helps, and I say, why? Why is that? But it's super difficult, coaching children, your own children specifically, coaching teams, coaching people with a difficulty close to burnout. It's super difficult, but on the other hand, it's so rewarding when you see you can help them, you see them thrive again, you see them gain confidence again, you see them changing mindset again. This is really a gift.
Purpose work.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. Actually, let me ask you a question while we talk about the team. I mean, obviously, also the team, the family is a team. Your workspace is a team. What did it feel like? I'm just very, very curious from a personal perspective, since you stepped into that role that I previously held. What was it like for you to then all of a sudden step into a team that was used to someone else's leadership style? I think that's because obviously, evidently, you and I are different, but also quite alike from time to time. But what was it like for you?
Well, it starts with humility, I think, and listening. When you step into a team that's used to someone else's leadership style, you are not just taking on a role, you are stepping into a space that already has habits, expectation, and dynamics. And I don't believe in rushing to prove authenticity or authority. I believe in earning trust first. So I spent the first weeks observing, asking questions, understanding what worked well before and what didn't. Then I slowly introduced my leadership style, which is grounded in clarity, empowerment, and trust. So one thing I truly believe, I never try to step into someone else's shoes. Leadership isn't about imitation. It's about authenticity. It's about you don't walk someone else's path. You co-create a new one with your team. That's how you build trust, engagement, and shared purpose. So when your team sees that you are not here to replace what was, but to build something new together, that's when the real transformation begins and trust builds.
Yeah, and it continues. I like that. Okay, perfect.
Guntram, let's talk about the human side of high performance. We talk a lot about results, but how do you measure team well-being and sustainable performance? Difficult question.
Well, yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult because you're combining the two aspects of, and you hear it a lot, right? You hear it like,
Yeah.
oh, we can't be a performance driven organization. It creates so much pressure, etc. I actually believe performance is absolutely fine. If you have the right leadership in place, and I think that goes across the board, not just marketing, using the word performance is actually essential, because you want to be a performant organization. You want to be measuring your success based on certain metrics, KPIs. You want to see the ROI of your investments. You know, as a marketer, CMO, I always say, well, the CFO needs to be your best friend. I think the times are over, and as you know, I'm hyper focused, laser focused on revenue marketing. So every dollar spent, you need to get a good bang for your buck, as they say. So I think on the one side, I think it's about making sure that you have a measurement for those results, you know, kind of, well, let me talk about the human side first. So the human side, you want to get some qualitative feedback, right? You have your regular one-on-ones. Those are fundamental. Don't miss out on those. Don't skip them. Make sure you communicate clearly if you skip them or you postpone, but make sure you have a regular check-in with your peers and also your team members. So in both directions, I think that's essential. Skip levels, one-on-ones on a regular basis.
Yeah, absolutely.
It creates that regularity and that connection between the human beings, and you can also then build trust on what you said before, right? Mm-hmm. It is about repetition. It is about the frequency of engaging, and that gives you a very strong connection over time. I think that's important. Regular pulse checks on that note, you know, holding specific sessions, not just on a one-on-one basis, as I mentioned, but also as a team. I mentioned my life coach early on. For example, I'm bringing her in to do team sessions as well. So where the team actually is with her by themselves, and then I come in, and then we have almost an administered and consultative approach to how we work as a team. So that's super efficient. And I'm so grateful that was suggested to me. So that was my idea. That was actually my coach's idea, who said, well, listen, I work with your team. I work with you. Why don't we see how you interact, how you function together as a unit? And maybe there are areas where I can support and help you grow. And then there's also obviously anonymous surveys. You can ask a lot of questions regarding your work-life balance. And, you know, I don't quite like the work-life balance description, but I use it for this instance because, you know, sometimes there's just a lot of ambiguity about how much time is actually being spent at work and how people are navigating their private life. So to that respect, I think it's important to also ask these kind of questions in regard to stress levels and can people manage the workload? How do they feel? Just do that check-in. Is there a clarity in their roles and expectations? And then also as a result of that, you can also help your peers and other leaders to get involved. So I think that's important. And then there's also some very indirect indicators and informal observations that I've made over time. And that's to, you know, again, on the note of checking in and understanding how your team works and how your team feels. And that's sick leave, you know, absenteeism. Are people actually present in the office? Are they present online? How are they present in meetings? I find it very interesting, and that's a personal observation. When you sit in team meetings, the personal demeanor and how people hold themselves also in calls, it's very interesting. You know, do they look bored? Do they look engaged? Are they doing something else while they're listening on the call? So, and then, you know, employee turnover, retention rates. There can also be something along the lines of, are they using their well-being resources? So I actually have written it into the MBOs, into management by objectives, as a must do to educate yourself, to train, and also to use the coaching that I have been exposed to as a leader. So that is super important to me. And then on the performance aspect, second part of the question, you know, it's about consistency, the quality of output. Is the team dedicating time to innovation? And I always say innovation is an idea brought to life. But that's also my responsibility to move some of the tasks that the team has off their plate in order to allow for new ideas to emerge. Because imagine if I told you, okay, you have 10 events to manage, you have these campaigns to localize, you have to cross-check in a quarterly business review with the digital team if the digital spend has been effective for certain campaigns in your region. You know, the rat's tail for a field marketer is so long. If you as a leader don't clear some of their time, you can't expect innovation. So on the note of performance, I think some great ideas can only surface if you allow for people to have that time, to have the surface area for exchange, and also to get some feedback on these ideas. And then you need budget to bring them to life. That's also a leadership question. Are you allocating enough funds to actually try out new things, see if it works, and if that, drives better performance in the long run? And then obviously efficiency. I'm not going to talk about, Celonis is a process intelligence company. I'm not going to talk about processes too much, but I think the performance is also related to how well your processes run within your organization. So I think there's a number of performance-related aspects, but also human-related aspects. So yes, you're right. It's a loaded question, not a difficult one. Combining the two is one, I believe personally, is one of the most difficult and challenging aspects of marketing leadership of the present day. Because everybody, and I say this from a revenue marketing perspective, when you have certain KPIs and you're aligning with your sales teams or your sales leadership objectives, and you're illustrating how marketing is contributing to that performance while making sure that engine is oiled and smooth and your team is happy and works with the purpose. And that is essential to me. That's the only way you will sustain, let's call it a longevity approach to good marketing culture and good marketing nature.
Absolutely. And I think this is...
Sorry, long-winded answer, but it was a loaded question.
It was two questions in one. That's perfect. So on two sides. One is obviously what I understand is also see the person, the employee, as a human being itself, right?
100%.
So he's not just the one that are working 8 hours, 9 hours at the job. They are the one that are having kids, duties at home, bringing kids here and there, having maybe some tough time at home for some other reason. So let's not forget to see people as a whole human being.
Definitely not a resource at all,
and not just a resource.
100%.
Right. And 100%. I think there is also where well-being comes into play, all the measurements and the tactics that you mentioned before, right? Yeah. And the other part is on regarding sustainable performance is where I see AI coming in, supporting us on repetitive tasks where then our teams, it free up their time to get innovative, to exchange, to get creative and all of that. And I'm looking very forward to this change specifically.
Can I ask you a question there, actually? Sorry to interrupt. How do you see that us as marketers, how should we lead through that change? You mentioned the human aspect, you mentioned AI, a lot of automation, segmentation, creativity being advanced, some of the tasks obviously disappearing that AI is now covering. But how do we lead through that change as marketing leaders? I'd be very curious to hear your point of view.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. So AI is absolutely reshaping marketing. That's what I said before, but it's not replacing us, it's evolving us. AI is taking over the repetitive task I was talking before, generating insights, optimizing performance, automating segmentation. It's freeing us up from the operational how, so we can focus on the why. And
operational how, I like that.
And that means the role of a marketeer becomes more strategic, right? So more human-centered and more cross-functional. We are no longer just campaign owners. We are experienced architects, data translators, or you name it, and the growth drivers. As leaders, we need to really to guide our teams through this shift with both clarity and courage. That means reskilling, yes, absolutely yes, but also creating a culture where people aren't afraid of AI, but exciting to co-create with it. We lead to not be controlling the change, but by helping people thrive in it.
Okay. Right? Yeah. So it actually it touches on what you said also earlier on. Obviously, AI will not be able to. And that's some of the myths, right? That it will just replace all these jobs and take away jobs, and we won't have to do the things that we did in the past. And I think it's true to some extent. But do you think there is a skill, for example, as we talked about the human aspect of it? Is there a skill that us humans have that AI will never be able to replace in our particular field of marketing.
Yeah, I said that earlier in the podcast. So for me, it's empathy, right? And I can predict behavior, but it can't understand emotion the way humans do. It can, for example, it can analyze sentiments, but it can't feel it. As marketers, our job isn't just to push messages, it's to create emotional resonance, to tell stories that connect and inspire. And I think empathy is what allows us to read between the lines, to understand nuance and to adapt, not just to what people say, but to what they need and feel. And that's something no algorithm can replicate. And it's also what makes marketing such a deeply human craft, even in the age of AI.
I like that you say craft. I've always wanted to do in my career. I love my job. I actually really do like what I do, but I've always wanted to do something with my hands as well. And craft is actually a really nice way to look at it. And AI will probably help us to also co-create, be more creative,
absolutely.
Influence the outcomes in a different way. So I think we agree, right? We can only urge everyone to educate themselves, to go out there, experience what AI can do, is doing already. I think it's a field where also us as leaders are responsible to initiate that thought within our teams and set off that spark to light that AI fire within our organizations to see what's really possible on a career side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love the answer. Thank you.
And Guntram, let's talk about the budget dilemma.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So I think that everybody in the company should love us because we are the only one having budget. So just saying, right? Just saying for whoever listened to the podcast.
Yeah.
But how do you balance ambition with reality, especially when you are constantly being asked to do more with less? I mean, that's everywhere, I guess.
Gosh, yeah. Well, as any marketer will know, at some point throughout the year and the ongoing fiscal year, you are involved in budget discussions. It's an ongoing topic. The budget will be defined at the beginning of the year or towards the end of the previous year, if necessary, against the targets that have been set and achieved, and the new targets that will be set based on obviously your ACV targets of your organization, your annual contract value of your sales organization, the pipe coverage that you need in order to get there. We're talking about the three horsemen, where pipeline is being generated by sales, marketing, but also the partner network. So, and based on that, obviously you have a certain budget with which you need to achieve these targets. So the ambition is always exorbitantly high, which should come no surprise in our field in B2B tech SaaS. I think we are very lucky and privileged to be working in a field where we are used to this growth, career growth, and economic growth as part of the organization. I think we're very, very blessed. So to answer your question and not to go off on a tangent, I think this is something that one of my previous bosses taught me. He always said, well, Guntram, if you need more headcounts, if you need more budget, let's just think about it first, what we can do with what we have. And he said, scarcity breeds frugality. And on the note of innovation, scarcity breeds frugality. It breeds, your kind of the drive to think differently, to get out of your comfort zone and say, well, I still need to achieve that target. How am I going to do that? And I'm not saying, you need to work day and night to get there. You need to burn yourself out. I think it just initiates the idea of thinking differently. And on the note of differently, I mentioned innovation earlier on, having new ideas, bringing them to life. So if that expectation for you to work with less and achieve more is also set by your leader, here's a practical piece of advice. Think about innovative ideas, free yourself some time or ask to have the time, and then define for yourself what could be good ideas to implement and to introduce to your team that would drive that growth, that would drive that evolution in performance. So yeah, scarcity breeds frugality. That would be my answer. That's how I go about it.
And how do you ensure that budget decision reflects strategy priorities and not just short-term pressure?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it comes back to the planning, and then also the habit of looking at the priorities. So I'm very fortunate this year that we've defined some very clear priorities in terms of our ICP, ideal customer profile, who are the individuals, the economic buyers and decision makers that we go after. Defining your strategic accounts, how many individuals within these strategic accounts you need to create touch points for. And you can actually, and that's the beauty of marketing nowadays, you can actually break it down as to how many in a complex B2B environment, a complex B2B buying center, you need a certain amount of touch points. Let's say you need between 8 to 12 touch points over a given sales cycle of, let's say, 16 months. If you break it down mathematically, how many touch points you need as part of your executive briefing center engagement, your account-based marketing tactics, digital campaigns, physical proprietary events, but also third-party events, etc. So you can actually create that customer journey over time, and you have a certain budget to do so, right? So that's how I would go about it. I would be very realistic about how many touch points I can generate for my target audience over a given period of time, and illustrate that almost on a timeline. And I know some of my team members, if they listen to this, they will probably say, oh, here he comes again, Guntram, with his visualization and illustration. But as a marketer, you always, there's never too much communication. You should over communicate. You should over visualize, represent what you're feeling, what you're thinking, how you would go about things. And when it comes to the budget, I think it's set those targets, allocate the budget, to drive that pipe gen process, to move the needle in terms of MQLs and meetings that you can impact also with your marketing tactics, and then look at the conversions, and then reiterate throughout the year and see what's working and what isn't. And we're doing this exercise at Celonis at the moment where we're looking at what are we actually deriving from a certain set of campaigns. And we've noticed that we did too much. We did last year, at the beginning of last year, front loading the pipeline. We noticed that we did way too much for our target audience and the gene pool of potential recipients of our communication in terms of the different tactics. So now we've truly looked at this, and we're going about this in a very, very rigorous and metrics driven way. So that's the baseline of me allocating budget, is to review the previous year, the tactic, looking at what we derive from it, and then deciding still, is it a strategic objective to, for example, be present at a third party event or to invite a certain target audience, or should we try something new?
And I think that this is fantastic in our times. When I study marketing, nothing were like it is today, right? So many data, so many insights, so many thoughts. So we have so many data.
Yeah, and use that data.
And now we can use that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Very, very customer centric.
Yeah, and AI, for example, can also help you there on the note of segmentation. Yeah. Let's not go too deep here on that topic, but it's incredible what you can do these days and how AI can help you on the segmentation front and the communication and setting up campaigns and automating certain aspects of that.
This is really a dream for us as marketeers.
100%. So embrace it. If you don't understand it, if you got 20 question marks now and you're listening to this, just chat GPT it. or Gemini. We use Gemini at Celonis, which is great, the enterprise edition, and I'm learning every day. It's fantastic and it's brilliant. So it's actually a good note to myself to look at how I can optimize my budget.
And I look very forward to our agents that are coming hopefully soon, helping us here. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So
lovely. Actually, hang on. I know we're running up on time, but I have a question for you, Vanessa, because we've been talking about performance in AI and stuff. Although I'm actually curious on some of the things that you're heavily involved in, and we've been working together for some time in the past, but I've been obviously following your track record also on the front of giving back and sharing your ideas and principles and wisdom and values with other female leaders also in the industry and people who want to become such leaders. So for you, I'm just curious what it means to, what does giving back mean to you beyond those business results that we've just been talking about in terms of performance and AI, etc.?
Well, for me, as just responsibility, right? We are so privileged to be where we are that I think that everybody has to give back, and it's our own responsibility. It's about using your influence, your network, and your platform to create access for others. It means recognizing that leadership isn't just about KPIs or growth chart, it's about impact. And bringing them back to work wasn't a side project in the sense. It was a response to a gap I saw and felt. Giving back means closing those gaps. It's mentoring someone who didn't have the same head start. And it's building structures that outlast you. It's using your voice to open doors and marketing. And marketing sure you are not for the only one walking through them. So I think that this is a responsibility that we should all care. And at Bring Them Back to Work, we see that, right? So the highest value and currency, let's say, within Bring Them Back to Work is really time. Because everybody's giving their time to pursue the purpose, to pursue the mission, to pursue the vision. And I think that, I don't know, but maybe Bring Them Back to Work is the biggest NGO that are not employing right now own people, but they have such an amount of people in the organization that are driven by purpose, not by money. And they are giving their highest currency, which is time. And this is amazing to see this. This is really very fulfillment to see there are so many people out there.
And I love what you've built there over the recent years. And I'm very grateful that I was allowed to witness all of that at the very beginning here in Zurich when we spoke. So it's fantastic what you've built there. I love the idea of that giving back nature that has evolved over time.
Thank you. And I mean, you were, as you said, a part of it at the beginning. You helped me there. I can remember that everybody was like very skeptical. And then I asked your support and you were all on fire. And I am really grateful for that. Yeah. And now you're back, right? So I'm super happy that we gain your insight, your marketing perspective for example, the Executive Circle program that you will lead the workshop there for these inspiring female leaders. I am looking very forward to this. And thank you once again for stepping in.
Yeah, same here. I'm looking forward to it. And as you said, the majority of my team is currently composed of female leaders. And so I come with a lot of experience and input. I'm sure we can combine the forces of revenue marketing with female leadership. I think it'll be very, very interesting workshop and day. And on the note of giving back, obviously, I'm really looking forward to doing that and learning also the amount of things that I pick up, working with a few startups, working within Celonis, listening to you, listening to other leaders, not just female leaders, just leaders in general, learning from them. I think it's tremendous. And listening helps the learning process. So it's something that I'm still working on, to listen much more and be a better listener. There's different levels of listening. So,
yeah, absolutely, and it's also part of leadership, by the way.
100%.
Guntram, let's close on a funny style as we used to.
All right.
So
can't wait.
Favorite marketing buzzword?
Favorite marketing buzzword. Actionable insights. Gosh.
Oh my God.
Huh? Actionable. We need some actionable insights. Why don't you dig up that data for me and so that I can have some actionable insights? The amount of times I've heard that, and I've always wondered, well, if you dig up that data for whatever reason, then for it being actionable, why would you do it? So I have some insights for you, not actionable insights.
Yeah.
You might disagree, or anybody listening might disagree with me, but I think actionable insights is just.
I have one.
What's yours?
Mine is let's take this offline.
Let's take this offline. Fantastic.
Translation. I have no idea how to answer that right now, but I will pretend to do it later. Something like this.
Okay, perfect. What's the? Let me ask you. What's the most used emoji in your marketing Slack? That's always something I ask people.
I guess it's the rocket.
The rocket.
Yeah, I love the rocket. I always write the sky is the limit to motivate my people.
You know what I've started using now? This little emoji that's kind of melting.
Ah, yes.
I put it in ChatGPT. I was like, explain that emoji to me.
And
there's multiple meanings for it. So it's literally, it can be something positive, it can be something negative. It confused me completely. So it's
so now you will change your emoji. I
will change my emoji.
So if your career were a movie, what would it be called?
Oh gosh, if my career was a movie. Guys, sometimes it feels like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas when I've engaged in budget discussions. No, but I would say I would call it something different. Probably a history of blunders and brilliance. Because as you heard at the beginning,
you are blonde, right? So it's
not blonde, blunders.
Blunders,
as in failures. There you go. On the note of failures and brilliance. So and this is kind of the reason for that. I'd say failures and brilliance, or blunders and brilliance. Life is life and work as well. Maybe we can talk about that some other time when we have
maybe we should open up another podcast.
But I've truly put my foot in it before at work, career-wise. So maybe on that note also, if you're at a point in your career where you think, oh gosh, I'm failing, or I don't know where I'm going with this, it's absolutely fine. This is not going to kill you. Find the right people, find a person to work for, not a company only. I think a great brand on your CV is fantastic, but also your manager or your leader will do a lot for your personal development in your career. And I've always had that pleasure. So yeah, my movie would be called A History of Blunders and Brilliance.
Great explanation. Mine will probably be A/B test me if you can.
A/B test me if you can. I like that.
Or
brilliant.
How I met my metrics.
How I met my metrics. Okay. Yeah. On the note of creativity, I see where you're exactly. Going. Let's stop here. Let's stop here. This is getting out of hand. People need to go back to work.
Yeah, I guess so. And not hanging around on podcasts all the time, right?
No, definitely not. Okay, let me just say a few things as a closing remark, if you allow me.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think the question here is, what brings us to, from obviously different companies nowadays. You at Salesforce, me at Celonis. What brings us together here? I think it's about that shared conviction that marketing, as we've heard through our conversation, is a growth driver, and certainly. And very importantly, not just a support function within the GTM space. So whether at Salesforce or Celonis, as I said, or beyond for other companies, we certainly both believe that the most impactful marketing isn't just what people see, it's what they experience and remember. So I think I have it on my LinkedIn profile, actually, that marketing should be fun, it should educate, it should inspire. So on that note, stay curious, stay bold. And if someone ever steps into your former role like Vanessa did, make sure they learn from your journey. They don't replicate your mistakes. And on the note of blunders,
or balloons,
or balloons. Thank you. And take it further. Go beyond, build on that foundation, and reconnect like us two in this podcast now. Right? I think it's fantastic to just reminisce a little bit and talk about the good old times and see how far this has come.
And it really was a pleasure to have you in the podcast today. And thank you once again for your time, for your insights.
Thank you, Vanessa.
I appreciate. And that was the podcast with Vanessa Gentile and
Guntram Friede.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.